Hello friends, welcome to Storytime from Washington, D.C. Can you see that big white building back of us here? That's actually the back of the U.S. Capitol building, because the front has a bunch of construction going on right now. So let's read some books from Washington, D.C. and then we'll talk more about what the Capitol is, okay? All right, are you ready? I've got my special guest here today. Let's do our opening song. We make the sign for hello, and we make the sign for friends, and we sing, hello friends, hello friends, hello friends, it's time to read a book. Nice. I'm so glad you guys are watching. Our first book today is called Grace Goes to Washington. And Washington is where my special guest lives. It's written by Kelly DiPuccio and the pictures are by Luen Palm, I think. So Grace goes to Washington. Okay. Here's a big picture in her classroom and it says checks and balances, and it has three branches of the government. And the government is what all the people, the group of people that make the laws for us to have a safe and comfortable country, right? So we have the legislative branch, the judicial branch, those are the courts, and the executive branch with the president or the White House, okay? So let's start our story. One Friday afternoon in April, Mrs. Barrington shared a large diagram of the three branches of the U.S. government. But Grace Campbell could not stop daydreaming about the upcoming field trip to Washington, D.C. Grace, do you know who's in charge here? Mrs. Barrington asked. Who's in charge here? Grace repeated. Principal Perez. A few of her classmates giggled. I think she misunderstood the question. Well, said Mrs. Barrington, I suppose you could say Principal Perez is like the executive branch here at Wilson Elementary because she's the head of our school. But right now we're talking about the U.S. government. Sorry, Grace answered. The president. He or she leads the executive branch. That's correct, Mrs. Barrington smiled. The president. The president is the leader. The last bell of the day rang. We'll discuss this more next week, she said. Student council members, Grace and Sam, don't forget, you have a meeting after school. You know what a student council is? It's sort of like a group of kids who help make decisions about how the school should run, what the rules should be. At the meeting, classroom representatives were discussing their ideas on how to spend the money raised from the holiday bake sale. They raised some money and they need to decide how to spend it. Thomas and his committee petitioned for new sports equipment. A healthy mind is a healthy body. Grace and her committee thought new books for the library was the way to go. Principal Perez even offered her own suggestion. The music room sure could use some new instruments. Mr. Marshall, the media center teacher, listened carefully to all of the arguments and took notes. So they have all kinds of ideas. They have sports equipment, library books, musical instruments. What should they spend the money on? They're all good ideas, Grace later admitted to Sam. There's no way we'll agree before the vote next week. You know what I was thinking during the meeting, Sam asked? No, what? If Principal Perez is like the executive branch, I think the student council is like the legislative branch because we're the elected leaders from each class and we help make decisions for the school. And in our country, the elected leaders, the legislative branch, they meet in this building right here. Grace considered Sam's comparison. Yeah, who knew so many people people had a say in how to spend cookie money, she grumbled. The following day, Grace could hardly contain her excitement. It was finally field trip day! As the bus drove down Pennsylvania Avenue, cherry blossoms dotted the streets like pink pom-poms. Right now it's August, so it's not cherry blossom season here, but in April it is, and it's beautiful. Grace and her classmates visited the Lincoln Memorial, the U.S. Capitol, right here, where the legislative branch meets. You can see how this building, does it look like that building? And the Supreme Court building. That's where you'll find the judicial branch and Supreme Court judges. Sam pointed out they decide if our rules and laws are fair. Kind of like Mr. Marshall does at our student council meetings, Grace added. During a tour of the White House. So the White House is another big white building over there. You can't see it, but that is where our president lives and his family. Home of the executive branch. Grace's dream of becoming president felt more real. Grace would love to be president. Their final stop of the day was the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. Grace studied the words engraved on the monument and thought about their meaning. Here it is. Make a career of humanity. Commit yourself to the noble struggle for equal rights. You will make a greater person of yourself, a greater nation of your country, and a finer world to live in. Those are words that Martin Luther King said a long time ago, and they are on the monument across the city here. At recess the next day, arguments about what to purchase for the school grew more heated. Look at this crummy basketball, Clara complained. It's practically worthless. At least you have a ball, Fletcher groaned. There are 2 new books in the Ninja Wizard series, but the library doesn't have either one. Hannah lobbied the loudest for new instruments. Well, I, for one, am sick and tired of playing the recorder in music class. Principal Perez is right. What are they going to do? How are they going to spend that money? Grace glanced at Thomas, who was unusually quiet. She looked past him to see who he was staring at. Grace didn't recognize the boy sitting all alone. He must be new, she thought. He looked kind of sad. Just then, the bell rang and the students scattered. "Wait!" Grace called out to the boy. "You forgot something." Grace handed him his sketchbook. "I like your drawing," she said. "Thanks," said the boy with a smile. Grace caught up to Thomas in the library. "I have an idea," she said. Looks like he was drawing the Capitol, maybe, huh? A few days later, the Student Council's last meeting of the year was being called to order. It says, "Bake sale profits. Vote today." "Excuse me," Grace interrupted. "Before we vote, Thomas and I would like to introduce you to someone. This is Aman. He's new to our school. We'd like all of you to consider one more option for how to spend the bake sale money." Together, they rolled out a big poster. "Whoa, we're calling it the Friendship Mall," Thomas said proudly. "Aman helped us design it." This looks like a monument, doesn't it? It has benches to sit and talk and play. It has grass. It has flowers to make you happy. It has a mosaic. We can make this ourselves. It's a place where you can go at recess to let other students know when you need a friend, Aman explained. Next, Thomas spoke about their field trip to Washington, D.C., and Grace read a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. "A finer, kinder world starts with us and the choices we make," she concluded. "Thank you for listening." So their idea is to make a friendship mall. What do you think is going to get voted in? Everyone clapped. Principal Perez wiped away a few tears. Mr. Marshall pounded his gavel. It's time to vote. After the ballots were collected, that's how everybody voted, from each classroom representative, and the votes were tallied, that means counted, Student Council President Grace Campbell peeked at the results and grinned. It's a unanimous decision. Unanimous means everybody voted the same way. It's a unanimous decision, she announced excitedly. All members are in favor of the Friendship Mall. The room filled with happy cheers. Yay! Principal Perez took a seat, and then, much like the president signs a bill into law, she approved the election results, making the decision official. Today, you put your own wants and needs aside in order to serve others, she said, beaming. That is true leadership. Oh, goodness. This time, everyone agreed. How about that? It is a good book, isn't it? I like that one. And it has a rainbow right there. Pretty nice, huh? And everybody came to an agreement on what they wanted to spend their bake sale money on, right? What do you think? Did you like that one? We're gonna do another one. So when our leaders meet in this building, right? They are making rules and laws and trying to help people, right? But one of the important documents in our country is called the Constitution, and it's basically the most important document for how our country is to be run, right? So, and there's a preamble to the Constitution. It's called "We the People," and it kind of outlines how we want to be as a country, what we want our country to look like. So this is a book called "We the Kids," and it's about the preamble to the Constitution. So let's just try this one. It tries to explain. The preamble has some big words in it, but it tries to explain them a little bit. So here you can see the pictures too, right? We the people of the United States, right? That's everybody who lives in our country, the United States. It's got a little windy here. In order to form a more perfect union, that means in order to be better together, right? To establish justice, that means make as many laws as you can that make it fair for everybody. Rules are fair, we share, no pulling hair. To ensure domestic tranquility. That's in other words a big word for saying to keep peace in our country. To provide for the common defense. That means if somebody was threatening us, the Constitution allows us to defend ourselves. To promote the general welfare. That means to make sure everybody's taken care of. And secure the blessings of liberty. To give freedom to all the people who live here. To ourselves and our posterity. And then posterity is a fancy word for our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren and all the people who come after us. Do ordain and establish this Constitution. We the people set up this Constitution to have for the United States of America, to have the United States of America be a great place to live. And we're still working on it, but we're working hard. hard on it, aren't we? We the kids. Let's read another one. And this one takes place at a different big building in town called the White House, right? And this is a Madeline book. You guys know Madeline, right? And the White House is where the president lives. And it's just over there, way across town. It's a very famous building. But let's see what happens with Madeline. You ready? In an old White House in Washington, D.C., lived as lonely a girl as there can be. Must be the president had one child and she was very lonely. Her name was Miss Penelope Randall, but everyone always called her Candle on account of a wildly stubborn curl that like a flame would dance and twirl. Even though her name was Penelope, they called her Candle, because look at her hair. She needed an appointment to see her father, but he always canceled, so why did she bother? I guess her father was the president. He was so busy, she never got to see him. She sat bored and alone at her desk and stool, the only student of the White House school. She was the only kid in her school. Secret Service agent Downs made sure she never left the grounds. Secret Service agents are special police that help protect the president and the vice president and our leaders and the children of the president. But life took a turn for the better when from her mother came a letter. It read, "Candle, my dear, sorry to miss Easter again this year." The letter's from Bombay. Her mother's visiting somewhere in India. "But in my place, I've arranged to send the daughter and classmates of a very good friend. Their old house in Paris is covered with vines, and they travel about in 2 straight lines. Their plane gets in at 9:30. Who's gonna be coming to visit Candle? Who is it? The smallest one is Madeline." 11 girls were very shy, but Madeline looked her straight in the eye and said to Candle, "How do you do? It's very nice to be meeting you." There they are. Madeline, Miss Clavel, and all the little girls came to Washington, D.C. The girls were taken to their quarters. Time to unpack were Miss Clavel's orders. Madeline's bag contained a surprise. What's in her bag? A rabbit, or rather, a friend in disguise. Madeline's magician had stowed away to join them for the holiday. The girls all cried, "Hip, hip, hooray!" Whoa! And went to Candle's room to play. The girls bid goodnight to their new friend. Candle was sad that it had to end. She went to bed without delay. She could hardly wait for the following day. She has all these new playmates. She was so lonely before, wasn't she? Oh, the White House Easter celebration is the most fun festival in the nation. And that's true, actually. At Easter time, on the White House lawn, there's a big Easter party, right? And they get to roll Easter eggs with spoons. I think you got to do that, didn't you, last year? They hunted Easter eggs at noon, and then they rolled them with a spoon. Do you remember doing that, or were you too little? Ice cream pie and chocolate cake cake. Whoa. It is a big party. Can lead to quite a tummy ache. Oh, they ate too many sweets. Nobody's feeling good. Madeline asked, would it be all right if I stayed in Candle's room tonight? Miss Clavel weakly nodded yes. Her stomach too was in distress. Just go to sleep early. That's a warning. Our plane leaves first thing in the morning. Oops. They played dress up, cards, and had a lark and told scary stories in the dark. It looks like they did not do what Miss Clavel asked, and they did not go to bed early. But when the cuckoo sang the hour, the frolicking mood quickly turned sour. The night, where could it have gone? All too soon would come the dawn. Madeline would soon be leaving. Oh, how Candle started grieving. She was so sad. The poor girl cried, boo-hoo, why can't I fly away too? Outside my window the world looks pretty, but I've never even seen the city. Poor Candle, she'd never left the White House apparently. The rabbit took this as his cue. A magician knows just what to do. He raised his arms like a candelabra and chanted the word abracadabra. The rabbit conjured something awesome, a magic tide of cherry blossom. Abracadabra! And they're off. Had two girls ever flown so high up into the starry sky? They're getting a tour of Washington at night. A magical tour. The rising sun erased the moon. Miss Clavel would wake up soon. But on and on they tempted fate. They were almost home. Here they are going by. What? What is it? The Washington Monument. Are you feeling shy? Perhaps too late. From the hall outside, Miss Clavel knocked and tried the door, but it was locked. Are you there, Madeline? We're in a hurry, said Miss Clavel, quite sick with worry. Agent Downs, a good bit bolder, broke the door open with his shoulder. Ew. Oh, there they were. The girls they saw were fast asleep, but there was a schedule to keep. Miss Clavel said, Madeline, make haste. We haven't any time to waste. They were sleeping in because they were out so late, right? To say goodbye is always sad, but coming home is never bad. There they are back in Paris. Miss Clavel came in that night and checked the girls by candlelight. To all the beds she walked around to see the girls were safe and sound. Then with a smile she closed the door. That's all there is. There isn't any more. How about that? Madeline in the White House. We have one more story. Should we do one more story? If you guys who are watching at home want to go and get if you have a teddy bear, you could go and get your teddy bear and hold it during this next story, because it's about how teddy bears got their name. I forgot to have you get one. While we're doing it, let's do Zoom Zoom, shall we?
I have a teddy bear.
Do you have a teddy bear?
Yeah, but I think I left it at home.
I think so. That's okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It was up in my room.
It was up in your room? Yeah. I forgot to suggest it. Let's do Zoom Zoom, shall we? All right. Esther, do you want to do it? Zoom, zoom, zoom. We're going to the moon. Zoom, zoom, zoom. We're going to the moon. If you want to take a trip, climb aboard my rocket ship. Zoom, zoom, zoom. We're going to the moon. Count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. remarkable tale of a president, a cartoonist, a toy maker, and a bear. So there used to be, a long time ago, over 100 years ago, one of our presidents was named T.R. Roosevelt, and he was called Teddy. His name is Theodore, really, but his nickname was Teddy. Okay. Theodore Roosevelt, or TR to his friends, was once President of the United States. When he wasn't too busy running the country, he liked to ride horses, wrestle, read, lift weights, write books, sail boats, give speeches, go camping, play football, go hunting. He had so many interests, but not all at the same time, of course. One year, his presidential duties took him south to the state of Mississippi. Between arranging treaties and other such things, he went hunting. He liked to go hunting. His hosts had hoped he might bag a bear or two, but word that TR was coming must have spread quickly, for soon there wasn't a bear to be seen for miles around. He was hoping to hunt a bear, but he could not find a bear anywhere. Except, that is, for one scruffy, no-account cub. He found one little bear cub. Me? Shoot that little fella? Said the president. Why, if I so much as ruffled his fur, I'd never be able to look my children in the eyes again. So he put away his gun and returned to Washington and his home in the White House. And that was the end of that. He did not shoot the bear, thank goodness, right? He said, I would never shoot that little bear cub. Except that it wasn't the end of that. For in another part of the city, in the very busy offices of its most important newspaper, the staff cartoonist, a cartoonist that draws funny pictures, right, for the newspaper, Mr. Clifford Berryman was being visited by his editor-in-chief. Clifford, I want something different, something that touches the heart, something that speaks to everyone. Have your cartoon on my desk first thing in the morning without fail. Yes, sir. No problem at all, sir. Without fail, sir. Okay, so Clifford, the cartoonist, has been told we want some nice, sweet story, right? Yet there was a problem. A very big problem. He couldn't think of anything to draw. I have an idea, said Harry, the coffee boy who was always hanging around the newsroom. He told Mr. Berryman about the president and the cub. The story had just come in over the newswire. That's the ticket, said Mr. Berryman, with a smile of relief. Young man, you've saved the day. Here, have a donut, on me. Oh, look at those smoke rings. He drew all night, and as the sun rose over the waking city, he put the finishing touches on his cartoon. Don't do that, please. Excellent, excellent, said his editor-in-chief between puffs on his cigar. I've got to hand it to you, Clifford. You sure know how to draw bears. Yes, sirree. That's one cuddly bear, all right. You guys think that's a cuddly bear cub? Others thought so too. The cartoon was reprinted in newspapers all over the country, including in Brooklyn, New York, where a Mr. and Mrs. Mitchum had a little shop. They sold newspapers and candy, novelties and stationery, and even sometimes Mrs. Mitchum's homemade toys. What's she gonna do? She likes that article about the bear. Rosie, take a look at this. The President of the United States refusing to shoot a little bear. Can you beat that? He should be so lucky, Morris. Not every bear gets to meet the President. But such a president, Rosie. We must let everyone know what a big warm heart he has. That gave Mrs. Mitchum an idea. Without saying more, Mrs. Mitchum took a piece of scrap material from the bottom of her sewing basket and began to snip the outlines of a little bear. She gave it a pointed snout, snip, stitch, snip, and two rounded little ears, snip, stitch, snip, and a pair of arms and legs, snip, stitch, snip, and large oval paws, snip, stitch, snip, and an ample belly, snitch, snip, snip, and last but certainly not least, a nice firm bottom, just right for sitting. Snip, 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 stitch, snip. See all those pieces for the bear? Then she stitched it all together and stuffed it carefully with fine wood shavings, the same she used for all her toys. What will you do for eyes, my dear? Asked Mr. Mitchum, who had been watching her with interest. Your black shoe buttons will do nicely, Morris. I'll get you new ones tomorrow. And don't forget the nose, added Mr. Mitchum. A bear's not a bear without his sniffly snout. But Mrs. Mitchum had thought of that, too. She chose some strong darning thread from her sewing basket and stitched on a little black nose. There now, she said, holding up the bear for inspection. What do you think? What do you think? Does it look like a bear? Mr. Mitchum was delighted. We'll put it in the shop window, Rosie, near the front for all to see, and we'll add a sign, too. But just then, Mr. Mitchum thought of something else, something very important. Here's what the sign says: Teddy's Bear, as portrayed by the famous artist, Mr. Clifford K. Berryman. Perhaps, let me adjust my leg here for a second. There we go. Okay. Perhaps we had better ask permission to use the president's name in advertising our bear, my dear. After all, Teddy Roosevelt is president of the United States. Teddy Roosevelt. Could that be how teddy bears got their name? So Mr. Mitchum hauled a stool over to the counter, sat down, and wrote the president of the United States a letter. When the president received it, he stopped whatever he was doing at that moment, which was no doubt quite important, and he dashed off a reply. So here it says, White House, Washington. Dear Mr. Mitchum, while I don't expect my name will do much good selling bears, you are welcome to use it as you have indicated. It is a bully idea. Sincerely yours, Theodore Roosevelt, President. P.S. Written in haste. Only in America, said Mr. Mitchum, beaming proudly, and on White House stationery yet, said Mrs. Mitchum. Whoa, it wasn't long before it seemed everyone in America wanted to own a teddy bear, for the name had stuck. There were teddy bears dressed as cowboys, bellhops, train conductors, undersea divers, clowns, cricketers, fox hunters, and schoolboys. Look at all those teddy bear outfits. What do you see? There were Boy Scouts, hospital patients, chefs, mechanics, soldiers, sailors, and aviators. Can you see the hospital patient? Which one is he? There were teddy bears made of burlap, calico, velvet, flannel, mohair, wool, and alpaca. There were brown teddy bears, black teddy bears, auburn teddy bears, white teddy bears, golden teddy bears, and even a red teddy bear ordered by a Russian Grand Duke for the daughter, Princess Xenia. Where is it? I think it's this one. Kind of reddish. And to go with all these teddy bears, there were teddy bear wardrobes, steamer trunks, tea sets, books, songs, games, and of course plenty of teddy bear picnic baskets. The world was filling up with teddy bears, and still there was a demand for more. Mr. and Mrs. Mitchum were so overwhelmed with orders they had to close their little corner shop and build a big factory, a really big factory, entirely devoted to making teddy bears. They called it the Ideal Novelty and Toy Company. From the assembly lines, teddy bears tumbled forth 24 hours a day, week after week after week, hundreds of thousands and millions of teddy bears of every description, size, and shape. They made a factory. Oh my goodness. Yet, as different as they all were, even the ones that were supposed to be exactly the same, they all had one thing in common. You know, Rosie, said Mr. Mitchum, I think the reason kids love teddy bears so much is that they're so darn cuddly. Oh no, my dear, Mrs. Mitchum said, it's because teddy bears give cuddles in return. And there wasn't anyone anywhere who could possibly disagree. Not even the president. So that's how teddy bears got their name, from the president, Teddy Roosevelt. How about that? Thanks for listening, you guys, and thanks for coming on the road with us to Washington, D.C. Next week we'll do some books about libraries from the Library of Congress. Let's do our goodbye song, and I really appreciate you all, and I miss you all. You want to do it with me? Goodbye, friends. Goodbye, friends. Goodbye, friends. It's time to say goodbye.